So here, I want to share kind of like a visual template, a tool that you might use to help you capture your values, and maybe a reference for you to kind of remind yourself of those values so that it's not just something you think about one day and like forget about the next. So for this, we're going to start by drawing that compass visual again. I'll leave that title for now, even though we'll play around with spacing a little bit and how big we draw this. So we're going to start with a compass pointed in a particular direction, but rather than your compass always pointing north like an actual compass does, for this one we're going to have the compass pointing in the direction of your values. So with it pointing in that particular direction, I'm going to draw kind of a dividing line here to split up the rest of the page into a couple different sections. So we're going to kind of be using more space than we have in some of the previous diagrams and sketch notes that we've made here. And I'll try to, keep resizing things and give the helpful perspective. What I like about this is, you could imagine doing this on a single big page, maybe up on a whiteboard or a chalkboard. And what you do within this section of the page here is identify the values you'd like to embody, bring that word back in again, with your actions. So in turning from a focus on vision to a focus on values, we kind of shift perspective from like the future that we're working toward, coming back to like the actual actions that you take on a regular basis. And with this kind of template that we're going to build out here, you'll see I'm kind of leaving space for you to add in some of these details. And within that portion of the page, I think what can be helpful is, in addition to like listing out the words and descriptions of those values, which there's a tool I'm going to describe to help with that piece, the word side of it, I think what can be most helpful is sketching out those values in action. So what does it look like to act out those specific values? I think those are the kind of reminders that might be helpful. And with that, you might enjoy watching, I think the video is called Drawing Difficult Verbs. If you want to get practice drawing people doing different things, go check out that live stream. That'll get your gears turning and get you some practice drawing people doing specific actions. But potentially, like what I think might be equally helpful, so in addition to drawing out the values that you'd like to embody, what those values look like in action, I intentionally left space on this side of the compass for you to add the opposite values that remind you what to steer clear of. You could also think of this as like the opposite of a to-do list is a to-don't list. Sometimes it's more helpful to identify the things that you want to make sure not to do. That can be just as helpful as identifying the things that you do want to do. Yeah, so I mentioned a to-don't list. I also, in the past, I think I've described this as a stop doing list. It's another way to think of that side of this template here. And to help identify what values you even have to choose from to begin with, rather than just like having to imagine all of those, kind of pull values out of your own memory. There's a resource that I encourage you to check out that is freely available online. If you just search values card sort. If you search that term, even just the first part, values card sort, you'll see this PDF that I think it was some researchers at a university developed that's available for free, that has, I don't know, 100, some number of like specific values. They're in alphabetical order. One of them is like autonomy as a value. And there's like a little bit of a description, a very short phrase that describes what that value is. So the idea is that, you can print out all of those pages of value cards and like cut them up and then use those to sort and determine which of those are the most important for you. And that's actually an activity. I have them in front of me right now. This is after printing and then like cutting them out. You've got all these individual pieces of paper that make it easy for you to kind of like do this filtering, do that sorting. So you can print all those out, and then through this process of selection and elimination, part of that process will probably be a little bit difficult to narrow it down just to a handful, but that's kind of the point. You can kind of sort, group, and pick the most important. So you start with that kind of large list of somewhere around 100, I feel like. You take all of those, you sort through them, pick out the top 3 to 5. That can give you kind of a starting point for the specific terms and descriptions that then I would encourage you to capture on like a diagram like this, on this single page, so that you have this one reference for the values that you want to embody and what it looks like to actually kind of act out those values, to live out those values. We might run out of time here, but I'll start giving a little bit of an example so that it's not just all kind of abstract and theoretical here. The reason this even came up for me is this was an activity that I did, not on my own. I actually did it with my wife to help establish our parenting values. My wife is pregnant with twins, due mid-April, and there's a whole lot of things we've been doing to kind of prepare for that. But one of those things was doing this kind of card sort together. And we even had kind of like, it was helpful to have 3 different categories. We narrowed things down to 5 kind of common parenting values that we wanted to both live out. So kind of joint parenting values. But then we also identified a handful, I think it was 3 each, of like individual values that are specific to each of us in the things that like might be challenging for us individually as parents. I'll list out the joint parenting values that we kind of landed on, and then maybe I'll try to get to at least one sketch of what that value looks like in action. So the 5 that we identified were adventure, romance, humor, flexibility, and mindfulness. And with this, we kind of specifically had in mind like the first year of parenthood. Like, what are the values we want to remind ourselves of during this like space when we're kind of getting used to being parents, because we're not yet. These are our first kids. So I will highlight those words. This is going to be somewhat similar to like the last section where we sketchnoted those 3 components of a meaningful vision, where I think what can be helpful is, identifying the word that is the focus of that concept. So that's what I'm doing here. What's the title of it? Then what's like some detailed supporting text, a little supporting phrase, and then what's a sketched visual to actually show that concept in action. For the purpose of this exercise, maybe I'll just try to do it for that first one of adventure. And what I appreciate about the little values cards is that they have a short little phrase to kind of specify that specific value. So for adventure, it was to have new and exciting experiences. And even though like new parenthood by itself is going to be an adventure, it's going to involve those like new and exciting experiences. The reason that we selected this as a value that we wanted to embody is to maintain like a sense of adventure that is currently in our lives, and not shy away from adventure because we have these 2 kids to take care of as well. So, I mean, we like going on hikes, going camping. So I think for me, what that would look like in action would be both of us, even just like getting out and going on hikes together. And by together, I mean like all 4 of us. So I think right now we have one of the kind of hiking backpacks for kids. I've never drawn these before, so bear with me as I figure out. I'm trying to picture too like how high up they are in these kind of hiking packs. I think it's kind of like higher than I first thought. Something like this. I'm doing a real bad job of like representing it, but that's enough to be like, okay, we're gonna put in the extra effort to actually get out and do adventurous things, even in like the first year of parenthood. because we want that to be a part, not only like a part of our own lives still, but a part of our kids' lives. So that is like one specific action that I think would kind of embody that value of adventure. And to just kind of describe the other ones, like romance, even just having like a weekly date night, or once every 2 weeks getting out on a date. Humor, laughing about all like the messes that we'll be cleaning up, and enjoying the kind of craziness of parenthood. Flexibility, being willing to like change plans. We're going to be trying to figure out our parenting processes, but I know that the things we think might work initially, a lot of those things aren't going to work. So we're going to have to change things on the fly. Mindfulness is about kind of constant awareness of what's going on in your head and your heart, kind of listening to both of those things and taking into account what's going on there. So you kind of can imagine, we don't really have time to flesh out all of those, but hopefully you can see where this might go and how it might be helpful to identify like a discrete number of values to keep top of mind with a given vision that you're working toward. And this could be personal, it could be with a partner, it could be a company or organization. Using this activity to both identify a discrete number of values, capture them in one place, and in that one place depict what the actions are that are associated with those values, and maybe the opposite ones as well, so that you know what not to do. With that, I encourage you to take on this activity for yourself. And I hope that you find it valuable to sketch it out and then have this as a reference that maybe you look at once a month just to remind yourself of the values that you've determined to be important to you. And then maybe once a year, you can revisit that card sort, because at different stages of life, different stages of your business, there might be different value sets that you might like to focus on. So there's some flexibility over time in the values that you choose to focus on, which is a thing that I like about this activity as well. If you'd like to dive deeper into the world of sketchnoting, then come join Verbal to Visual. There you will find complete at your own pace online courses, weekly live workshops, and a global community of visual thinkers who are working to master this skill. You can learn more and sign up via the link below this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.